What have we got here?
This is Toby Capwell, curator, author, historical advisor, and all-round expert on historical arms and armor. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and we are back in Bohemia to check out more of the incredible Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
So this is Jan Žižka.
Nice shirt.
Yeah.
Jan Žižka is like a Czech national hero. Hugely important figure, but like a lot of medieval people, there are gaps in what we know about his life. And in this period of the game, in the first decade...
Okay, let's check this. I'm not a huge fan of the Viking helmet in the back that looks like something that you can buy for $20. Not trying to shame anyone, but this is Toby Capwell. At least something from a museum. The gauntlet looks nice. What do you guys think of the Hound Skull? It's not too bad. Doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too cheap. This one actually looks kind of nice. I like the protruding eyes. I think this is based on the one you find at the museum where he works in London. Is that right?
The 15th century. There's a lot we don't know about his life. So it's really clever of the game.
It's very clever that they put the crossbowmen in that crossbow country. That's one thing that pissed me off about the original Kingdom Come Deliverance game.
Put its story into that gap in the historical record.
We have more videos with Toby coming up very soon, including one covering Monster Hunter Wilds and the awesome Warhammer animations. All of those will be landing on our Patreon 1 week early, so for early access, extended editions, and so much more, be sure to check out our Patreon, link in the description below.
Check out their Patreon.
Impressive.
With that out of the way, make sure you like the video if you enjoy, and now I will throw it over to Toby.
Yeah, guys, it's a sign. It's a sign. It was a space marine right there. How did they know that we were speaking about this? It's destiny, guys. I need to get into some, not the political commentator. We need to get into some of the Warhammer 40k lore, I guess. It's fate. Let's call it fate. It was okay, Raphael?
That's the main character here?
No, this is the main character pulling up on his right.
Oh, right. Okay.
The guy who's in the more resplendent armor is your lord, Lord Hans Capon.
There's a nice relationship between the two of them. There's a nice sense that they belong together, but you can immediately see the status relationship of one of them being higher ranking than the other.
Yeah, Henry, you're the role of bodyguard, advisor, good old chum, and that's your horse Pebbles.
Oh, nice. Nice looking horse. This immediately, right from the beginning of the game, shows you that they've thought a lot about not just the accuracy of the equipment, but also the range of quality and the way armor of slightly different status would be set up and what the overall effect would be. And how do you use all of that, the horse equipment, the armor, the clothing, to tell the story and to express the characters. They need to tell you here who is the lord, who's the nobleman, who is the retainer, or the bodyguard. The lord is Armigerous.
Well, yeah, I mean, even the armor, you drew a knight dressed to impress. That's how it was.
That means he's a knight. He's someone who is legally entitled to display a personal coat of arms, where you essentially write your name in colors and images on your gear, on your horse, on your shield, whatever.
Yeah.
But that heraldry, that coat of arms, is personal. You can't just start plastering it all over everybody. Nobody else can wear your coat of arms. But they haven't done, it's easy to mistake heraldry for team colors or, football.
Yeah, in fact, the rules for the colors of heraldry are quite complicated, and you're told which colors you're not supposed to mix and which colors you can mix. Sometimes I think in general, it's been a while since I last reviewed it, but I think you're not supposed to mix gold and silver because they're both considered metallic. So usually you want to have either colors that are non-metallic or one metallic and a non-metallic. The exception to that would be the Templar Order, because I think that they did mix precisely gold and silver. So you do have exceptions, and even though there are rules, they're not always followed in heraldry, but heraldry is something that if you have got time to spend, I'm not going to say waste, but spend, that's something that can get quite deep.
Kit or something. And it doesn't work like that at all. It's saying who you are in a very specific way.
Halo.
But there's a reference to the relationship here because his breastplate, his body armor is covered with a material that's basically the same color as the Lord's field of his coat of arms. So there's a nice little sense of a relationship there, and a team mark, which is also then also used to color the other soldiers in different ways without misusing the coat of arms.
I'm not trying to nitpick, I'm actually genuinely asking, but why do you think we feel the need to specify body armor like you did now? As opposed to what? Spirit armor? Oxygen armor? I don't know, body. Yeah, because I mean, that's where the armor goes. I don't think it's wrong. I think it's just, for a moment, when he said body armor, it just came to my mind, body armor, body as opposed to non-body armor. You say armor for the torso, but then again, it's all body. This is my body. The body's everything. Spiritual, I guess. Put on the armor of God, am I right? There you go.
That's really nice. And the Lord's armor is a better quality than the bodyguards. Although the bodyguards' equipment is perfectly fine, it's not the absolute best.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff kind of works nicely on your imagination.
Oh, I hope they've got a good physician at this castle. Or at least a barber.
After that scene where
I don't need a barber. Haven't been in 12 years. No, I'm joking. No, actually 5, 6 years since I last cut my hair. 6.
you were sparring with your lord, you take a bath in the nearby pond and bandits set upon your party, kill your party, you're stranded wearing nothing but your underwear, basically. You get injured, you have to flee, you flee into the woods, escape, and some healing woman from the woods, some herbalist, takes you in, helps you recover, but you are just wearing rags at this point. And the plot is you're supposed to be delivering a message to another lord. So you try to go to the castle where the lord resides, but you don't exactly look like a lord and his retainer anymore. And that's basically the opening to the rest of the game. You need to find more resources, more armor, money, find someone who will take you in as a lord, convince someone that you're a lord. But before all that, the first time you meet someone of some status or visit a castle, this is what happens. You've lost your party, lost all of your equipment, all of your armor, all of your money, everything.
It's formidable when you're not being invited in.
That's really the major plot point. No, we don't know who you are. And now you're covered in shit. This goes to what you were saying, I guess, about the heraldry. Without that, you know, there's no pictures of Hans Capon. They won't know who he is.
Or any way of, I mean, it's a profoundly visual culture. You have to look like who you are. It's an expectation of that. And this is a nice inversion of that. They've shown you what he usually looks like as a knight, but to show what happens when all of that gets taken away is really clever, because the story is reinforcing the underpinnings of the game, that you have to get this gear to be who you are. Without the gear, you're nothing, you're nobody. And, you know, a knight is a function of his armor, his weapons, his martial skills.
Yeah, same for men at arms. In fact, that's a very good point. Look how deeply he can see. I mean, this is Dr.Toby Capwell we're talking about. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of men at arms looked and fought exactly like a knight. So in iconography, if I show you a random piece of iconography with knights in full plate armor, or even mail and great helm charging during a battle, and I would ask you which one are the knights, you would point to the people, and then maybe only 2 are actually titled, and the rest are men at arms who are fighting in the manner of the knight, but technically they're not knights. So with men at arms, this does happen a lot.
His horse, and when you take all of that away, he's just a person.
Yeah.
That's an extraordinary way to open the game, actually.
Maybe the way he speaks would be still recognizable as a member of the upper echelon of society, or his ability to read and write. These would still be telltales.
Your deeds and your abilities will speak to who you are as well, but it takes an awful lot to override the lack of the appropriate appearance.
Very bloody throughout this game.
Yeah, no, but that's a real thing. It's a real thing, but it's a really hard issue to deal with in the visual media, because, you know, the reality of it is pretty bloody. But in a kind of structured production or presentation, often if you put too much blood on, it just starts looking like Monty Python or something.
Just a flesh wound.
And real blood, when it's spattered onto polished steel, can look really bright red and kind of fake. It's not what people expect blood to look like sometimes. So there's all kinds of inherent problems with portraying the reality of this when the expectation is kind of uninformed. somehow, or when there are other existing Monty Python media tropes.
All right, we'll call it a draw.
So I mean, I see they've gone with it, but it seems like they're pulling it off
That was such a weird way to move the mace right there, but hey.
pretty successfully.
Well, even outside of combat, if you're covered in gore or mud or a combination of both, people out in the world will respond to you differently.
Oh, of course.
People might
course.
fear you because you look so hellish. But if you're shiny and resplendent, they will they might perceive you as more noble. It can be advantageous to go to a water trough and wash all of this viscera off you because people will respond to you differently.
There are also several 14th and 15th century texts that specifically describe the mirror polished surfaces of the armor as being frightening.
Man, that's Excalibur, isn't it? I love that movie.
It's scary to see this glittering being. It's like an alien shining with this kind of divine ray.
Rather than alien, I would say an angel. Probably from the medieval perspective, they would have seen it like as an angelic thing, yeah.
Radiance. A couple of texts I've worked on my most recent book where it specifically says the English love polishing their armor because they believe it makes them more frightening to their enemies.
Wow.
So, it's also interesting to try and understand how people at the time saw it. Yes, it's beautiful.
Absolutely, the period psychology, guys.
Beautiful, but it can also be terrible and scary at the same time.
We'll surely get a nice
Same as today, Raphael,
Lord
exactly.
Capon Touchdown.
That's what I thought. The shields look
This is the
really good.
introduction to Jan Žižka.
Oh, great. I wish they hadn't uncovered his throat there. I know he has to do this big dramatic scene and he has to be able to speak, but his aventail should be covering his chin and throat. You should never see a bare throat. If you see a bare throat on armor, there's seriously something wrong. So this is Jan Žižka.
Yeah, you don't know it yet, but yes, this
that's who
character
it
is Jan
is.
Žižka.
That's amazingly interesting because Jan Žižka is like a Czech national hero, incredibly famous, in
Look at that mustache.
Eastern Europe, of course. He was a Hussite, a follower of Jan Hus in this sort of proto-Reformation movement in the early 15th century. Hugely, hugely important figure, but like a lot of medieval people, there are gaps in what we know about his life. And in this period of the game, in the first decade of the 15th century, there's a lot we don't know about his life. He was living a kind of Robin Hood sort of existence. He does seem to have been a bandit and kind of a soldier for hire in this exact period. But it's a kind of a black hole in his biography. So it's really clever of the game to put its story into that gap in the
Man, look at that breastplate. I love how deeply he goes. I also like that finally the freaking breastplate cuts at above the navel as it should, because oftentimes in medieval games you see these breastplates that go all the way down to modern day jeans belt, which you wouldn't be able to bend because differently from our shirts, this is solid metal. So the moment you have a breastplate that reaches your modern day jeans belt and then you try and bend, it's not gonna bend, and so it's gonna choke you. It's not a nice feeling. So that's why breastplates would usually cut above the navel, because that's where you bend. And then as you go forward in the 15th century, then this guy is a little underprotected, but I guess he's got mail underneath. But normally in this period, you would have something called a fold and a placard, which would then basically, most of you already know for sure, but this is the breastplate, this is another plate called the placard, and they will go one on top of the other. So when you do bend, this happens. And then you can move. Articulation in armor is such a fascinating topic. Anyways, let me see. We're kind of halfway through. I'm going to have to, I guess, continue it tomorrow.